Hello. Oh. Yeah. Hi. Oh, I should close my door. Oh, my hair is stringy. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna leave the door cracked. All right. Yeah, that's right. I'm in pajama pants at 5 o'clock. What of it, motherfucker? Hello. Welcome to stream. I was bored sitting alone and just sitting, and I'm taking apart a Lego. Yes, taking apart. It's, you can actually see where it was. It was the one that was right there. The Quinjet. There's a possibility that I won't be living. I don't want to get into, like, super details about my life, but there's a possibility that I might move of my own accord if I get a job in anywhere. So I'll have to take apart my Legos anyway. And B, I'm trying to clean up my display, so I'm taking apart Legos that I don't care as much about. I'm sure you noticed I got rid of Jabba's Palace. A while ago, I got rid of the other one that used to be there. My medications are just in the background. That's weird. I'm gonna move those. That feels weird. I don't feel right about those being in frame constantly. Okay, I fixed that. I don't know, that felt weird. Anyway, yeah, so I'm now taking apart the Avengers Quinjet set because I don't know, I don't care about it as much, and it doesn't display the greatest, and it makes me feel like I'm making progress. I was working on the SMP before, but now I'm on this. And I'm watching YouTube, so I figured, I'm watching this video, and I wanted to say what I thought about it, because I'm watching it, and I also just felt lonely. So now I stream with people here, and I react to YouTube video while I take apart Lego. Doesn't that sound fun? I'm sorry, it is not. But we're gonna go to the game scene, and I'm gonna make it show my the thing I'm looking at.
Society. Sure. So the
Okay, that's not working. Let's try a window capture. Window capture worked. Window capture worked. There we go. In full screen, it works perfect.
Example would...
Okay, so I've been watching... I'll start it again. But I've been watching Jubilee does those videos where they're extremely they're extremely biased 90% of the time, but they're doing all these political videos where it's like, oh, one person and their titles are always, by the way, extremely biased. There's like moderate versus woke. They've changed it to versus, but the title, yeah. Can one pro-lifer survive 25 pro-abortion activists? Survive? The term, again, survive. This one used to have a worse title, I remember. Oh, this Ben Shapiro one used to have a terrible title. They have very clickbaity and semi-biased titles. But the videos are sometimes interesting to watch. I've been watching this one, which is 20 Trump supporters take on one progressive, Sam Cedar, and I'm going to pause the music because I'm going to be watching the video instead. So while I take apart this Lego, I'm just going to watch this video with you all, if none of you have seen it, or some of it at least. It's an hour and 30, so I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing. But I just, there was a part in this video where it hurts my soul how genuinely, incomprehensibly uninformed and stupid the conservative Trump supporters on this video are. Like, they're so dumb. They're so stupid. They're dumb as rocks. In fact, they might be dumber than rocks. So yeah. I thought it would be fun to make fun of them and watch the video while I do Lego. And also people will be in chat and I won't be alone and lonely. Yay.
I used it before, but it's a good one.
I'm going to lower the volume.
Canada as well.
I'm going to go here. I'm not going to go all the way to the back, but I'm going to go here. There we go. So it's this guy versus 20 conservative. Fact checked by San. And I didn't see a fact check on the thing that I'm pissed off about, but we're going to watch this while I take apart Lego.
Which is to give corporations more power.
Anyway, I don't necessarily agree with his reasoning, but I agree with the concept. I don't know if it's exactly to give corporations more power. It's just because he's racist as shit. That's literally it. That's a lie. There are actually a couple of different reasons. None of them are good, but.
Sorry. No worries.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise, I guess.
So this guy wasn't as bad.
A real goal to, give corporations more power.
I'm gonna turn on closed captions, by the way,
around
for y'all.
The democratic,
Boy, take apart Legos. Back to taking apart Legos. Whippy. Whippy, yippee, yippee. We take apart Legos while we make reaction content. I've never done this before, so we'll see how good this goes.
I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, right? You know that.
Right.
In government agencies, the A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being inaccessible to get into a job. It rather wants to de-incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases. Right.
But DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities.
Yeah, for some reason, these people hear inclusion, and their immediate thought is affirmative action. Don't get me wrong, affirmative action was a thing at one point. It did happen, and affirmative action generally... I do feel iffy about, for the most part. I do feel iffy about it. That was when there were in some places, there were quotas. Which I don't know. I have mixed feelings on those. But that's not what DEI is at all. DEI is literally just a bunch, for the most part, although each company can handle it their own way. When it comes to the government, it is literally just... forcing them to make sure that they post things in places where more disenfranchised people can find them. So it's more about making sure that the job is out there for more people to see. Because, if you just post it in places where rich white people are going to see it, you're effectively discriminating in how you're offering the job.
That have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town, metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. And this is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities. So
yes, they do, because that's what they're getting rid of.
Rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies.
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporations.
It doesn't. There's no quotas at all. It doesn't devolve into quotas. There isn't a quota.
evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look at.
I mean,
we can even look at.
Would you
the
have
DNC's,
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year. There was no reason to nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't.
First of all, the vice president is never democratically selected. Not really. That's just selected by the president. But she was the vice president. Like people did vote for Biden knowing that she would be vice president. When she was made as it was just because she was vice president, and it's because Trump was stepping down from the nomination. They couldn't run a primary in 2 months.
She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before.
It is also worth noting that there is no legal requirement for the parties to have primaries. Like, can we make that clear? Like, the primaries are just a thing that the parties do, but they are by no means actually required at all. The parties are not government institutions. They are vague social groupings of politicians and ideological groupings that have businesses and companies that back them. They are large, but they're not a government institution, and they don't have to listen to primaries. They don't have to hold primaries. They don't have to listen to primaries. They don't have to do any of that. The only thing where your vote actually like legally matters is the federal election. Primaries are not actually like government things.
The convention, you think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that party, except
No, not always. Most of the time, and that is general practice. However, we just saw, we just saw, they actually did have an internal, they did manage to have a vote in Canada for their new premier. But here, we don't have good voting systems. It takes longer to get an election set up, like a lot longer. Quite frankly, the primary voting is not something that's required. Would I have preferred it happen and me being able to put my vote in for someone other than Kamala Harris? Yes. Frankly, I would have preferred it, and it's not ideal. However, it's not because she was black. It was because she was the vice president. If anyone else was the vice president, they would have then been put up for the nomination instead. There wasn't time.
There were not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972
well,
in
sure,
the Democratic
but
Party?
this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you
finally
think
got
were
this
gonna
part
run primaries
separated,
in those
Jesus.
2 months?
Well,
I mean,
sure,
Joe Biden should have dropped out
even
3 years
even
ago, as far as I'm
before,
concerned.
well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next person.
Well, she was the vice president,
right? Of course, but
yeah,
she wasn't
that
in
tiny
primaries.
Detail. But
right,
listen,
well,
aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well, but that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
need to
That's
search
totally unrelated to
for
the
a
point,
wide
by the way.
range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job. You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
But you're cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said. Had nothing to do with quotas.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific
what
numerical
else was he trying
quotas.
to take out?
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into positions they have no qualification.
There is no evidence evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies?
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't,
Give me one example.
You can't ask me to pull up.
They can never, even online. Oh, the red flags are, so the way that this works is that the people, the other conservatives can raise flags, and if more than half of them raise them, that means that they disagree with what he's saying or they want a new speaker. So currently, 10 out of 20, if one more person raises a flag, he's out, a new speaker's in.
Numbers when I'm not, I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you, but these are
like that, 11.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please
He's been, they're voting, it's for voting him out of the centers.
See it?
Okay, so I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who.
Oh, he's not the super stupid
issue
one.
Is, and I kind of referred to this.
It's the next one that's really
systems,
dumb.
What tends to happen when you have
they're all pretty dumb, but
government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems.
Listen, some of them, like that guy is just misinformed. That guy has accepted a bunch of propaganda about the guy before about what DEI is. He has listened to what the GOP has told him DEI is, and he has decided that that is correct and hasn't done any research of his own into the policies. He's just been like, well, they told me it's bad, so it's bad. There's one guy here who just doesn't understand how the government functions, period.
And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of.
This has never happened, by the way, except for specific roles where you need one, like Black Panther, like characters in Black Panther, and it's like, yeah, they're African. Sometimes race is important when it comes to casting movies and content and shows.
Gender, race, right? That is an abuse of a system. It's no longer fair, but more about just perpetuating one aspect of, visual compelling aspects. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. It's saying because we have more black women, we sell better soda. Like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders.
This is also specifically, by the way, about government. We're not talking about he's not talking about private sector. Private sector does whatever the fuck it wants. He's trying to talk about government here.
But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years, there's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job. I doubt he wants to
I think
buy a
what's
used
happening
car,
is
so it's
we're
different.
talking about two different things. Because
Well,
again,
but I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
you're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected
Also not true.
DEI because again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case, but again, my point is we're talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this. And liberals like to do this thing where they create systems and then they created the whole idea of woke and then they backed away and then conservatives say woke. And
this didn't happen.
What woke is, they created DEI. Biden literally said, Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all
this
of a
also
sudden,
didn't happen.
Democrats for the rest after that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said
Kamala Harris was not chosen because she's a black woman. They specifically selected. What are you watching? I'm watching a Jubilee video where a dude is talking to a bunch of idiots, otherwise known as Trump supporters. That's not what happened. Biden said that he was going to select a black woman because he wanted someone to come in whose representation. And then he picked the best from among that pool. He did say that he was wanting to pick someone who is from an underrepresented group. Which, say what you want about it, morally, one way or the other, like it's bad, it's good, whatever. I really don't think it matters. Because consider the fact of, on the other side, do you really think that Trump ever would have considered, even if they were the best available option, a black person for his vice president or a black woman ever? No. There's no harm in it as long as she's good for the job at all. There just isn't harm in wanting to have more inclusivity. Is this rage bait? To an extent, yeah. And that's why I'm watching it.
Said that, and then we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in reality.
Biden wanted to make sure
these are real people, though, and this is unscripted to my knowledge.
That there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
Yes,
without a doubt.
so why did Democrats move away from that and say no? It wasn't because she was a black woman.
I don't know
my point is
that it's not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying, that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now, and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and there's
Listen, when the first person of color in the cabinet that you can think of is the wife of the vice president, you're cooked. You're cooked. It's over. The first thing you thought of was the wife of the vice president. She's not in the cabinet.
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of skin.
Listen, I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is
bag one.
There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. That's just the reality of it.
So does that
Some
mean
people
that?
don't necessarily have a problem with that.
But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government? What does race have to do? What does race have to do?
Actually, I'm doing the opposite. If I was building Lego, I would be showing you. I'd have a camera up. I'm actually taking apart an old Lego. I'm taking apart my old Lego Quinjet. I talked about it earlier, but I'm looking for jobs in another country, so I need to start taking apart some of the Legos I care less about displaying, and some I'm actually selling. This one I don't think I'm going to sell, but Canada. But I took apart 2 already that I'm going to sell. I took apart Jabba's Palace and some from Harry Potter. I want to take apart all my Harry Potter ones as well because I'm going to sell them. But this was up here, and I'm just taking it apart because it has to come down eventually. I'm not going to start taking apart the ones that I actually like having displayed, but I didn't care much about this one, and it makes room for other ones that I want to build and display in the meantime. You know? So yeah, I'm taking this one apart. It will be rebuilt again somewhere else, or if I sell it, by someone else. But I don't think this one's worth much, so I don't think I'm gonna sell it. This is the Avengers Quinjet from the superhero line a while back. Looks like I'm taking apart about 90% of the ship here. I should probably... I started on 1. I probably should have started at 3. I probably should have started, at the very end and gone from there. Thankfully, it wasn't an issue so far, but now I'm gonna start working from the end now. Because that's probably smarter. A lot smarter. So I'm gonna start doing that. It's just a jet. It's just a Quinjet. It's just an Avengers Quinjet. That's all. We're gonna watch the video now.
Hold on. What does
Donald Trump didn't have to say my vice president's going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the premise of DI. What does race have to do with running an effective government? What is race?
Actually, a lot. In general, because when it comes to how most white people are raised, we're raised not to really consider the plight of other races and more disenfranchised groups, because we are raised with a certain amount of entitlement by being the primary race. Not even the primary. I don't even think we're a majority race in a country. We have that innate privilege, that innate I don't know what the other word I would use, but we have that benefit. We're talking about America here specifically. So when we're talking about that with America, there is a benefit to someone from a disadvantaged group being a leader. It's because they understand disadvantaged people. They understand being disenfranchised. They understand the plight. Listen, I try my best to, but realistically, I could not properly represent the needs of these groups.
Have to do if let's say DEI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I gonna get better
on the micro level at McDonald's? Am I gonna get better French fries?
Nuggets?
Better nuggets.
If the cashier is black or white,
am I gonna get better nuggets if the cashier is black or white? Yeah, because white people don't know how to fucking cook. No, I'm kidding. But that's not a thing. McDonald's isn't hiring people because they're black. That's not a thing.
That have to do with anything?
I'll tell you what it is. First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or
there is no world in which that's happening.
Be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt.
Exactly.
Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protect people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do.
They're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which are initiatives in the government that are used to ensure that disenfranchised groups have equal access to apply to government jobs. It basically makes sure that things are posted in various places. Make sure people don't get discarded, even if they... Basically, it's making sure that people don't get discarded for being for being discriminated against, and it also ensures that people, again, can even see these jobs. Part of it, or have the option to apply to these jobs, like having internships that are paid rather than unpaid internships, because someone who's white with wealthy parents, they might be able to take a internship that's, you know, unpaid. But many people can't.
Do not tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans. It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better.
Bro said I'm gonna tap out. I want you to know I've watched up to 20 minutes, 19 or 18 minutes of this video so far, and then the next person is an idiot. He is the dumbest motherfucker that you're. I don't know. It's an hour and 30-minute video, but he is so fucking stupid.
Can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right.
I want to beat him with a rock.
How are you?
Yeah, this fucker.
When it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism? So would you...
Also, bro, you are swinging for the wrong team. You ain't straight. There's no world in which you're straight. Why are you conservative, bro? Why? For what reason?
You consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
Are you suggesting we've moved past racism? Would you consider yourself racist? Yes, he is trying to insinuate we've moved past racism.
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, you know, white supremacy. I think actually like we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean,
I will say, the one thing I will say that I don't like is he used the term we all experience some forms of white supremacy. Privilege, I think, is the better term there, because white supremacy is a bit more than that.
The Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children. Because
Nope. They've demonized them. They have done that. They have, in fact, demonized trans people. That is, in fact, a thing that they've done. They've done that.
Children. Children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a...
by the way, to clarify what this guy is saying, children are not being stripped away from their parents. Children are being removed from abusive homes. They're not being stripped away from their parents. They are being removed from abusive parents. As an outsider of America, this is fucking crazy. It feels like you guys don't understand the huge impact your president has on the global stage. No. We do. Most like sensible Americans do realize like how big this is on the global scale. The only one who really doesn't seem to is Trump himself. And a bunch of conservatives who try and claim, oh, global, blah, 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 blah. They trust me. I very much realize this. It's insane.
Premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
There it is, by the way. He's transphobic. Exactly. So you are demonizing trans people. Thank you.
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids.
If a child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in terms of...
They can't. Their parent must assist. Also, in most cases, they can't agree to a sex change at all. They can in many states, you can only get puberty blockers.
DEI initiative. In terms of a DEI initiative,
also we let people make much more life-changing decisions.
Why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills.
By the way, this is just the women are too emotional argument again. This is just the women are too emotional argument. Oh, you're taking hormones. You're emotionally unstable.
And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your, whether that be hormone, estrogen?
This isn't Minecraft mod, anti-trans talk, and this isn't Minecraft mods. I said in the channel that I was doing something different. I'm now taking apart Lego and watching this stupid bullshit. Yeah, no, this guy's insane. Makes sense not being allowed to get surgery before 18 since tattoo is also wait until you're 18. So I do actually agree with that. So here's the thing. I think that here's my take on the trans question as a mostly uneducated straight white man who's dating a queer person, and I talk in a lot of queer circles. I'm friends with a lot of queer people. I'm friends with a lot of trans people. Here's my take on it, if anyone gives a fuck, which I don't think anyone does. My thoughts is that surgeries, like we're talking vaginoplasty, like the stuff where you are actually physically changing things, like you're swapping dick for pussy, you're swapping pussy for dick, you're getting implants, you're getting tits removed, all those types of things, I think, should be limited to once you turn 18. Those ones, because those are, for the most part, those are irreversible. Implants are reversible, to be fair, but removing and, like, full-on changing your genitals, that you can't undo that. And I truly don't think that a child or a minor should be able to make that decision for themselves. I understand that there are many cases where minors will have that maturity level and the capability to do that, but the vast majority do not. So as a matter of safety and talking about the majority, it should be something that waits until they're 18. I also think similarly that things like full-on hormone replacement therapy, like taking testosterone, taking estrogen, should not be started until maybe 13, 14. This part I'm not as educated on. I think that the first step should be social and non-medical transition. So start using the other gender's pronouns. Present yourself that way. Haircuts, makeup, clothing, possibly puberty blockers. Those types of things before you start going into like, okay, this is working. Whatever, we can move forward. So there's a lot of people who, I think this is funny discussion because can people even do that before 18? Like, deadass, is that allowed anywhere? I don't think so. So that's how it already is. I know some kids start taking hormone blockers before they start turning into whatever they are born as to fully stop it before it happens. Yeah, that I've seen. And I think that's kind of okay because for the most part, your body, it'll be different, but your body can still do puberty later. You're kind of mostly just blocking it off. Now, there's some side effects. It's not perfect, but every medical condition has that. Or every medical anything has that. Hormone blockers are the safest option for putting these things off. I think that it's important for children to take the social aspect first before they're ever doing hormones and things. Because the matter of fact is, if you start getting uncomfortable and people are using she, her pronouns and this and that, maybe you were wrong. A lot of times people are wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they're like, oh, trans people are just confused. Some people are confused. Some people are gender questioning. Some people have, yes, there are a lot of circles that for, as much as people might not want to admit it, there are a lot of progressive and trans circles that are kind of pushy when they shouldn't be. Like, there are a lot of people who are like, you said, oh, you're an egg, you're an egg, you're an egg. It's really weird the theorizing that they do about these people. Like, they were, like, the biggest example I think of is, like, Finster. Now, don't get me wrong. They were right about Finster. And making the jokes after the fact is fine. But I feel like when he still was saying, I am a man, I'm just dressing up as a girl, whatever, I feel like it was wrong how many people were like, oh, he's trans, oh, he's actually a woman, oh, he's egg. I feel like that is very pushy and can lead people to be even more confused. I don't like that social aspect. Supporting someone who wants to transition and encouraging them to explore that side of themselves, awesome. But theorizing and being very pushy about it, I feel like leads to the small amount of G-transitioners that do exist. So I do agree with that. Social first, puberty blockers from 10, 11, and then you can start hormones around when you're in high school, and surgeries if you want them past 18. Have fun with rage bait debunking, sure. But yeah, my thought is basically that. It's doing the surgeries that soon is kind of no. But that's not happening anywhere. It's not. It's literally not happening. Anyway.
Whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war.
This is just stupid. This is dumb. This is dumb as fuck.
Executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with
this is so
agencies
fucking
that had
stupid.
nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just revoked the ability.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do. No, they don't. The FDA has nothing to do with the military. The FAA, barely anything to do with the military. No. Why is such a big part of America Christian? Because they're dumb.
Of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
what are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
honestly, like they're rewriting history.
Well, that's your perspective, right? But at the end of the day,
look at his face. He can't stand it either. Ah! They're stopping people from talking about the Tuskegee Airmen. Well, that's your perspective, right? No, it's not a perspective. It's a fact. They stopped a program where they were teaching Air Forcemen about the Tuskegee Airmen, who did exist. It was an all-black regiment. They deleted a bunch of photos from a bunch of old records, which included the Enola Gay, which was the plane that dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima. Because it had the word gay in it. That's just your perspective.
if a person...
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed, right?
Just listen to this.
It's just your perspective.
If you were racist, right, and you were an employer... And
if you were racist and you were an employer, right?
If you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to hire you...
His genuine argument is that we should let the racists be racist so that we can find the racists. That is this man's unironic argument that he is making right now. Let the racists be racist so that we can see that they're being racist. Then what? I don't know. I don't know what we do after. But just let the racists be racist, bro. So we'll know. Because they'll show themselves, right? Then what? We have no laws on the books making that discrimination illegal because they're removing them. This guy's so fucking dumb.
Based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the end of the year when you create your tax returns. They give you a...
No, it doesn't.
Tax credit for hiring someone who's...
Certain states have some tax cuts for certain area. I think there might be some thing there, but this is... Again, we're talking about the government in this case. And then do what? You've erased the laws to stop them and institute a punishment for it. Yeah.
Black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
In government
businesses.
agencies.
Hey guys, the government agencies are getting tax breaks. Let me say that again. Let me say that again for you. Let me say that again. The government agencies, the FDA, all of these government agencies, the FAA, these government-run agencies that are run with government money, they're getting tax breaks.
They don't get tax cuts for hiring people
And
of
the other
color.
thing I
This
wanted
is
to,
to
and I,
protect
the other
people
thing I
from
want to
discrimination.
A tax cut is when you get a cut or a break on your taxes. You pay less tax because of something that you did. You get tax credits. There's EV tax credits for electric vehicles and things along those lines.
The thing I want to kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on
DEI.
You're doing more harm than good by giving them jobs that they believe that they got based on the color of their skin. What does that mean? What are you saying? What are you talking about? Oh, the flags is a system that they can all hold up flags if they want the guy to stop talking, and if more than half of them raise their flags, the guy has to move, and one of them, a new person gets to come up.
Does not is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color,
No,
physical
it
attributes.
says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people.
Black people, women, trans people, gay people, Hispanics, Asians.
Who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should.
Yeah, it is, which is why they're trying to avoid discrimination.
Be based on merit, and that is the
It is.
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but if the
Not
DEI,
if you get a
if the
tax
DEI, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of
If
these
you
orders
received a
on
tax
these
cut as
agencies.
an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
If you could pay them
I like how he's just like, dude.
less.
listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. They don't. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
Yes,
these are.
they do. They
Yeah, you hear that? You hear that? Government agencies get tax cuts.
absolutely do.
I'm
They
talking
absolutely
about
do.
Every
parts of-
private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Every private and public sector gets tax
Government agencies
cuts.
don't pay taxes. Government agencies.
I love how he's trying to be nice about it. He's just like, government agencies don't pay. It's like he's talking to a toddler. Genuinely, it's like, little Timmy, government agencies don't pay taxes. They don't. Government agencies get money from the government. Government agencies function based off of tax money. Why the fuck would a government agency pay taxes with the government money that they got from the government and then pay taxes to the government? Why would the government pay taxes to the government based off of money that they got from the government? They don't get tax cuts. That's the whole thing. They don't. Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies are government agencies. They are part of the government. They get money from the government because they are the government. That money they get from the government is the taxes that we pay. Why would the government pay taxes to itself?
Operate on are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think
Government agencies are funded by the government. That is not true. That is not true. You can tell he's just so... He's trying so hard not to just look him in the eye and say, fucking die. Just shut the fuck. Like, he is holding back so hard not to look this man in the eyes and say, shut the fuck up, you incompetent, bumbling moron. Oh my god.
Juxtapose of this entire
This motherfucker, this motherfucker is a moron.
This is...
I like how he just decides to go, what month is it? What are you? He's in a different reality.
January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say, if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every...
I like that.
How come they always pay but pretend to be professionals, well, despite not knowing anything? Because they're conservatives and they think they are professionals.
Love me a buzzword.
They truly believe that.
Best effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay.
You must do your best effort. Love me a buzzword. Love me a buzzword. You must do your best effort. Love me a buzzword. The word must isn't a buzzword? What the fuck are you talking about? Bro is not cooking? At all? Bro burnt the kitchen down?
Okay,
Because you feel like you have to, you're pressured to.
Yes.
You shouldn't be pressured.
Because you feel like you have to. You're pressured to. Yes, they are pressured to not discriminate.
To hire someone based on skin color?
No, not to hire
That's not what they're...
someone that's skin colored, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax
right.
cuts.
All right, return.
I like how he's just like, I want to murder you right now. And that's how you get, therefore you get tax cuts. He's so dumb!
At the end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone who speaks
Please
a different
return to your
language or
seat.
different skin color.
No, you don't. That's not fucking true. If that were true, white people would never get hired for anything because companies wouldn't care. But that's not true. Also, government agencies still don't get tax cuts because they don't pay taxes.
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet on which part benefits corporations, like from your perspective.
So agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them.
This
what
guy's
they
actually
function to
asking a
do
good question.
Is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm gonna dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, you can't do that. We're gonna fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're gonna take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river.
What is this video? Are they all? They're all Trump supporters. Outside is Trump supporters. It says on top, 20 Trump supporters versus 1 progressive. I think I'm actually scared of Trump supporters and voters. I don't know if I'd say scared. I'd just say fundamentally disappointed. It's like if you gave a group of fucking toddlers who only watched Trump speeches for the first 5 years of their life and let them vote. They are all just so fucking stupid.
And those costs are then borne
Most
by
of them are,
everybody
at
who lives
least.
around that river. They're going to get cancer. They're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is.
Like, most of them are genuinely some of the stupidest people on planet Earth.
And society bears the cost of that.
That's
Because
just
those
conservatives
costs-
in general, though.
Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely
no,
different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Votes thing, the OMB, The whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree if this is about demoralizing? I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said...
No. No. Just, no, he didn't. That's not true. That's a lie. That is fake. That... popular vote. I don't know what this is. Runner-up and party turnout. Popular vote margin. Okay, I don't know how to read this one. Oh, I might actually be wrong. I know he didn't win the electoral... Well, he did win the electoral vote, but there was something that he didn't win. I don't think he actually won a margin. Won election by numbers. Council on Foreign Relations. Come on. Yeah. 49.8. 77 million. It is the second highest vote total in U.S. history, trailing Biden's 2021. But the point is, Kamala... No, wait, 48.3% of the vote cast. So, he beat... Technically, he won the popular vote. That is true. But he didn't get a majority. 49.8 is less than 50. And it's definitely not over 50. And it's definitely not a mandate. My brain had it mixed up.
Said yourself that
it's easier to manipulate and control people who don't know anything nor know how to ask questions back or even have the brain power to think, more like what Pete said to me like a parrot. Pretty much.
Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it.
Trump did not get a majority.
The government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies in the military and other organizations, not just the military.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app...
What fact checks? Do you see any fact checks? Do you see any at all? Do you see any facts being checked? What fact check? Did I miss something?
And website that is on a mission to raise phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts.
No,
Thanks
they're
again
not.
To Straight Arrow News for partnering with us.
Guarantee you it's a conservative
now
bullshit.
Let's get into it.
My next claim is, unless you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or
unbiased news doesn't exist. Let's make that clear.
Xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect.
He's
religious
back.
fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists
What was
get?
the question?
Also,
Unless you're a billionaire, religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake. Yeah.
can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance, but things like the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education we should take that money and pour it into religious schools. You're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
What do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic?
That's the Dow Jones. That's the Dow Jones index. That's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is one of the main things used for tracking how the U.S. economy is doing. This is today. This is the last week. This is the last month. And this is the last year. This is the last 5 years. This is the NASDAQ. That's the NASDAQ for the last year. Right here is about a month ago. You can look at the last 6 months, the last 1 month, the last week. We're at around $6 a dozen in a lot of states for eggs. Economic relief!
Economic relief. They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut when they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up
when you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working. Who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
That's good.
Not a single lie, by the way.
Hey. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
What's wrong with religious fundamentalists? I can give you the answer. They are horrible people. They are horrible, vile, unempathetic, homophobic people that care about no one but themselves. And their fake the view on their version of God.
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference.
What's
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
well, I have a
No, he's making this argument. No, no, no. Oh my God. He's making the. I can tell you exactly what this guy's about to say if he's allowed to say it. You can't have morals and ethics if you don't have a foundation to do it on. Without God and without a fear in God, you cannot be a moral or ethical person. It's only preference and what you prefer. No, there's these cool things called instincts and empathy, and I can feel those without believing in Sky Daddy.
foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering.
My morality is based off of not wanting people to suffer. Of wanting people to be able to live freely and express themselves freely and not be scared of discrimination and hatred. Be allowed to live, be allowed to have health care.
Suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no,
I would have contention with that.
I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society.
Okay.
We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be.
It would be morally right under your
not
view.
morally right. No.
No, that's not what he said. You're so fucking stupid. If there isn't a big powerful being telling me what is good and bad, we would all. I don't know what I can say on Twitch. I know I can say kill, but sexually assault and kill because that's what stops me. So everyone else must struggle with these thoughts. Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not talking about morals
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off
I
of.
believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a health.
The liberal viewpoint is not that everyone should be gay. The liberal viewpoint is that gay people should be allowed to be gay. It's not that hard.
Healthy straight couple. Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good.
This man is gay. This man is fucking gay. This man is closeted homophobic. This man spent his entire fucking high school looking at dicks and abs and gay porn and then felt horrible about it because he thought that God said no. I am telling you right now, this man is gay as fuck. Religion and their rules and views or whatever is one of the few things that make me very pissed. Yeah. No, I don't want to hate religion because I believe that people should have freedom to believe in what they do. And religion makes a lot of people better people. And it helps a lot of people process the world and go through life. And I understand that. But there's people that use it as a weapon to hate people. It's as simple as that. Anyway, this guy's gay. This guy's gay as fuck. This guy likes dick in his ass. I'm calling it right now.
Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were.
Give me a justification for being gay other than it feels good. That you don't... That you are? Like, what?
Born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't done enough research into that. But possibly? Possibly. There's a couple different schools of thought on that, and we need more research into it. But the issue is that I don't like how I was about to word that. Pedophilia is extremely and properly, correctly stigmatized. But part of the issue with that stigmatization is that people have decided this is wrong, this is horrible. Everybody who has these thoughts is a horrible, vile person. And they are horrible, vile thoughts. I'm never going to say that pedophilia is a good thing. What I am going to say is that the stigmatization of it has stopped people from being able to research why it happens and how to assist in making these people not commit these crimes and deal with their feelings. Anyway, liking men isn't the same as being a pedophile. But there's also that pedophilia could mostly just stem from trauma. Nature versus nurture type thing. People really aren't sure. Because we can't do the research. Because people would throw a freak out. Like, why are you doing research on pedophiles instead of killing them or throwing them in jail? Blah, 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 blah. Blindly following a set of things because of the consensus that'll happen if you don't is just so horrible. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided...
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consent...
We do not put pedophiles in jail because having sex with children makes you... declines birth rates. That is not the reason. It's because it's... I don't know if I can say that on here. It is not good. The not good R word. I don't think I can say that on Twitch anymore. I don't know. I need to look into that. It's not good. It's non-consensual. And it's a child. It's traumatizing.
Consenting adults, it's a different thing than...
Okay, so you're okay with a 45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well?
I mean, I'm not okay with a daughter because that's kind of fucked, but... And there's also a power differential there, and it's more complicated, but... A normal 45-year-old and a 19-year-old I might personally think is weird, but... I feel like our definition of adult is kind of iffy, and that I feel like I only kind of really truly feel like I'm becoming an adult like now in the last like few years. Even in my first year or two of college, I still didn't really feel like an adult or properly responsible. It gets to a point where it's iffy and maturity levels very much come into play. It's kind of hard to say at that point. 23? I've always been 23 for the last 30 years.
Incest.
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about freedom and exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine on me, and I don't want that.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my...
Okay, so the argument here is that religion provides a way for continued repopulation, blah, blah, blah. So does being gay. It's called artificial insemination and multiple other things. People want children. Also, straight people aren't going away. Gay people are such a small portion. What's good? Not much. It's actually all pretty bad. It's all pretty bad, actually. It's very bad. It's really bad.
Argument as to why I don't want
you have no
your
contention.
religion to... Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why
No, I don't have an issue if you do. Move! Leave! Go to Vatican City or something where you religious fundamentalists are in charge. Get the fuck out of my country. America was founded on both freedom of and from religion. Separation of church and state. We are not a Christian nation. We never will be. Well, no, actually, we might become one, but we never have been, and it was never intended to be. Ever. What are you all watching? We're watching a Jubilee video where 20 toddlers are arguing with an actual intelligent human being.
Say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a Christian
One.
nationalist,
Yes,
and
which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that
Someone beat the shit out of this dude. Oh my god. Don't Americans have to swear on the Bible or some shit? No, that is actually a misconception. You have to swear on a book. Or on something. We just usually have always elected Christians or Catholics. You can actually swear on any book. You can swear on the Torah, you can swear on the Quran, you can swear on Harry Potter. You can swear on yeah, you could swear on the Communist Manifesto if you wanted to. You could swear on goddamn Mein Kampf. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Sure. You just have to swear on something that you believe in or desire. You just have to swear on something. It doesn't have to be a Bible. Also, before someone brings up the under God in the Pledge of Allegiance, it wasn't there originally. Damn, it's so bright out right now. Fucking daylight savings is wild.
under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage under this.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households.
Sorry, we're going to have more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Bro, just get on your knees. Just get on your knees, bro. Come on. We know you want it. I can tell. I can see it in your eyes.
Sorry about better education.
Better education? Better education? I need to swap out this energy drink for a fucking beer. Oh my god. Christians are actually actively destroying education. Ah!
Gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be secondary to...
Gay people, they should be straight. They should be straight. They should be straight. They should be straight. Who's the Christian? The guy with the glasses is the one guy. Everyone else is the 20 supporters. Also, there are so many fucking kids in orphanages right now. Adopt! We don't need more kids right now.
To their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands.
Women
that doesn't mean they
Oh my god, it keeps coming. It keeps, oh my god.
That doesn't mean they are slaves.
Right.
I feel like someone's just got a gun and they're like, pop, 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 pop. Over and over and over. Oh my god, bro. My hair looks awful now.
No,
it means they are protected. Okay, let me ask you then. Let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think...
If they're...
Yes. Actually, no. No, let me correct myself. No one should be drafted. The draft should be illegal. What?
We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better education.
Gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should...
Trans people, gay people, they should be straight. They should be straight. Black people, they should be white. They should be white.
Be secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands.
Women
that doesn't
should
mean
submit to the
that doesn't mean they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
It doesn't
no,
mean they are
I
slaves. It means they are
understand.
protected.
You
Okay,
got
let
a
me ask you that. Let me
hierarchy.
ask you.
They should submit to their husbands. It doesn't mean they're slaves. It means they are protected. Holy fuck, dude.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen.
Yes.
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
Yes. Either women should be drafted or men shouldn't.
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the no.
We need a dominatrix in every home. Honestly, listen, I'm a dom. I'm not. But I'm not sure if I disagree with you.
Of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now,
state-mandated dommy mommies doesn't mean they are slaves. I just want to control them because I don't like dealing with women and their woman tendencies. Men are so much easier and better. I want a relationship without those pesky woman issues. For real. For real.
You may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and that...
And that too! These people get angry about like countries that are also theocracies, and then they're like, but I want one. I want one of my own.
And apparently that's, good for them if they want it.
My final point is
I don't want to live in a
My final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate...
No. That's not true. The Crusades happened. Germany tried to do that and they got a little freaky.
From that's where all the problems arise.
All right.
I think you are at home in the Trump.
Thank you very much.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
I don't think he should have said, I think you're at home in the Trump camp. He should have said, I think that you're a vile human being. Stop being nice to them.
Sorry, guys. I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is...
Christian values are literally just love and respect thy neighbor, not follow what I like and think like...
unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are. It's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be, but others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like having a theocracy is something different than having...
I think love thy neighbor is a good precept, and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept. I think there are things from religion that are good. I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be is like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people. But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy, and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of like religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's
sure, but like I like it, so it should be right.
My sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where
another bag finish
doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't. at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he is a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology.
Well, now it is, but originally it was in fact just some guy coming out and being like, "Hello, God said this. God told me this. I promise." That's not actually what happened. It was society and the leaders of governments and leaders of societies realizing that they needed something to keep people under control. Because there were a lot of people, like people who are modern day Catholics and Christians, who do not understand morals. They don't have them. They're not ethical. They are not empathetic people. They need to be forced by believing that there is a punishment beyond life, an eternal punishment. That is why Catholicism and all religions exist.
Is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine.
Right.
I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy in civil society.
Well, and I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you.
No.
Well, I mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to men.
Right.
I don't think they should be,
Right.
and in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth, that's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
I don't know, when Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, but now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the
Sure.
world. And I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we
we
can
don't-
disagree on
Yeah,
that.
we don't take.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks,
Please
Sam.
return to your seat.
All right, what are these dumb fucks gonna say?
Okay, so
Ah, he's back! No! No! He's back! No!
Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay.
The Supreme Court, as of today, is looking at overturning a law that banned conversion therapy. Right now! Right now! That's happening! It's called the slippery slope.
Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, in public. Kissing in public. No.
Punch every single one of those people in the face. Beat the shit out of every single one of them. I hope someone's gone and found these people. Genuinely, I do.
No law against it. Just your own opinion.
Every last one of
These
these
are all
people
people's opinions, right?
deserves their entire family to know that they just raised their hands. Every single one.
Opinions about Christians is the same way these people are
No,
allowed.
I don't have a problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its.
I
We should
do.
not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is, I think that Christianity. I'm a Catholic. I think that Christianity is, fundamentally.
Wait, what did they raise their hands to? They raised their hands to this guy asking, "Do you think that same-sex couples shouldn't kiss in public?" Are you homophobic? Trump has only been in power for 2 months. Why are you saying the last 4 years?
Important to instill family values in myself as well as every person.
Listen, technically not. However, yeah, no, he's definitely gay. You see, my family values and myself as well. He's so fucking closeted.
Person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about.
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman...
Is this guy trans? Also, what transgender person is friends with you?
Is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on.
Me when I don't understand what an intersex person is. Me when I don't understand what an intersex person is. Me when I don't understand that there's more than 3 states of matter. Me when I don't understand that you can actually subtract numbers, and that if you go lower than 0, these things called negative numbers exist. Me when I find out that anything more complicated than what I learned when I was 3 years old is real. Genuinely, that's like
what you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face.
Exactly. So why do you care? What do you care about gender?
And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies.
There are no laws to manipulate children to castrate their bodies. Not a single one, by the way.
At such a young age. 50% of children...
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers are.
I promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
we're not playing this game.
No, I am playing this game.
We're not playing this game because I don't want you to know that I'm an uneducated, bumbling fucking moron. We're not playing this game.
Because I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because...
Source? Oh, now, okay. Now we have a fact check. 38 fucking minutes into the goddamn video. Not all the other times that this guy has lied. No. Now we get a fact check. What does it say? Studies on this subject often suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up, imprecise measurement, and poorly chosen sample bases. Doctors agree more research is needed. Really? This is all you fact check? This is...
Because of it. They're actually more depressed because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
by the way. How many over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me. Just give me
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
no, I'm not trying to put you in a chokehold. No, this is definitely a gotcha moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than it is.
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medical.
It is a huge problem. How many though? How many though? It is a huge problem. There are so many. How many? It's a huge problem, though.
Covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know one person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who wants to transition.
That surgery.
I don't understand
medical coverage. One person has had that.
What surgery?
I understand that, yes.
Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes.
Taxes should go for.
Okay, California. Your taxes aren't going to trans surgery. What's wrong with you?
A prisoner who wants to transition.
Well, I think because we got to do health care for
No,
prisoners,
Gavin
and you
Newsom-
don't consider
Gavin
it real
Newsom-
health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I
Newsom
don't want
has
to get...
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids over
2022.
5 years
That is a lot of
received
children.
puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
That is a lot.
I don't wanna
Has
get-
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids over
2022.
5 years
That is a lot of
received
children.
puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
How, what was the number?
900 kids over health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I
Newsom
don't want
has
to get...
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids over
2022.
5 years
That is a lot of
received
children.
puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over
547.
5...
That is a lot of children. That is a lot of children. No, it's not. It's not. It's really not. It's really not. Did he say 900,000?
over 5 years.
That is a lot of
received
children.
Puberty.
Those
Listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
It's not 900,000. It's 900. I was about to say it's 900. Elon, it's not 900,000. It's 900. Just 900. Over 5 years. Over 5 years. Let me just check again. I'll check again.
Newsom has imposed $2.6 billion in 2022.
Kids over
900 kids. Not 900K. 900 kids. 900 over 5 years. Let's break that down by state. Okay? So 900 divided by 5. That's 180 a year. 180 divided by 50. That is 3.6 children per state. Per year. 900 kids is like one elementary school. Or at least a large one. 900! I don't want to look stupid because it will crumble my fragile superiority complex if I know how much utter bullshit I'm spitting out. Yeah. 900 is a big number. I can't even... It's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. My sister has a huge conservative flag in her room, by the way. You should beat her up. You should beat your sister. Imagine being Swedish and being a conservative freak.
5 years.
That is a lot of children.
Puberty
that is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over
547 just passed, including gender identity.
AB
547 just passed, including gender identity. That's a lot of children. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Gender identity to allow children to be separated from their parents just due to not affirming their gender.
Correct. It is allowing children to be removed from an abusive household. Thank you.
Gun deaths.
Identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump is, how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated?
Are you for...
They're never being discriminated? Yes, they are. Yes, they... Paul, fact check? Did I miss a fact check? Oh, sorry. Oh, data compiled by Reuters and the health technology company Komodo found that from 2017 to 2021, 4,780 adolescents started puberty blockers and had a gender dysphoria diagnosis. A new study from JAMA found that only 1% of young patients in the study were transgender and prescribed puberty blockers or hormone therapy. Was there another one?
rescinded the ability
no.
of the... How is he... gun deaths.
Identity.
But here's the point.
It's just due to not affirming their gender, including gender.
Listen, Trump is... How is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated?
Are you for trans people being discriminated with...
They're never being discriminated? Yes, they are!
I'm passionate about that question, and can I answer it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I believe that
Can I
affirmative
answer it?
action should be...
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. That's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless,
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well, hold
saying
on.
you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone, or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic, not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
on their sexual
Are
orientation.
you allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need
Do
to,
you,
if you need to, then you should. If you need to, then
Right,
you
what
should.
should we have?
Bro just said full on you should be able to fire people because they're trans. It's not saying you can't fire trans people. It's saying that you can't fire them because they're trans.
We have a disagreement.
All right,
I don't
pause.
believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with.
Someone should beat you with rocks. Can we bring back stoning?
Just saying.
Ain't no way they clapped for him. Hey, I finished one of the booklets. On to the next booklet. The last one. Or technically the middle one, because I did number 1 first, and then I started on 3. So yeah, here we are.
Hi.
Sam.
So, I actually think that this liberal world order needs to
Stoning is in fact a thing still as long as no one see. You're right! Let's go.
be thrown away completely, and I think Christian's liberal world
Wait.
Sam.
So, I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now.
I think that we should get rid of dude, he's so this man is in so much pain. This man is in so much pain. If I were him, I would want to kill myself right now.
Now it's
And
just
congratulations.
yeah, and thank you. And yeah, I think
Oh my god, these are truly vile people. Yeah, let's go! Let's go, theocracy! Let's go, end of democracy! Yeah, let's go! Let's go! I hate freedom of religion! I hate freedom of religion! I hate freedom! Everyone will be Christian! Yeah, let's go! Let's go! Kill them all! Oh my god, these are real people. These are real living people that are allowed to breathe the same air as you. They're allowed to walk the same streets as you and eat the same food and drink the same water. Holy shit! Yes, obviously. These people are allowed to vote.
what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even.
Children don't die of abortion. No one dies of abortion. Children don't die of abortion. If a child dies of abortion, that's not an abortion, that's a murder. Post-birth abortion's a funny joke, don't get me wrong, but no child has ever died of abortion. Ever. No child has ever died of abortion. Let's make that clear.
Have like a.
Should we mandate?
And that's a fact, not an opinion, by the way.
People reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids. There
So
are like.
No one's killing their kids. Not one single person has done that.
On to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw
I think it would
abortion.
benefit. I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that
This stupid bitch genuinely just said, I don't want rights. I want to have less rights. I want to have less rights. I hate having rights. I should have to be submissive to a man and cook food and get beaten by him every time that he comes home. I want to be a battered housewife that gets beaten up for speaking out of turn and is forced to have sex to make babies 24/7. That's my dream life. I love that. I love that for me. I can't wait. I can't wait until I get a lobotomy because I have anxiety. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Bitch, you don't need the lobotomy. You've already had it.
That women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown
The family unit hasn't gone anywhere.
into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like.
Ah! Oh, it keeps getting worse. I was joking, but it's real. I was joking, but it's real. It's real. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bro, I would. I don't believe in divorce.
Sure.
All right. I mean, this I think though reinforces my point that that if you are.
I think this reinforces my point that every last one of you is a fucking moron.
It would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society.
Would it be better for abused women? Would it be better for women who are abused by their husbands? Elon, what fucking shithole do you live in? I want to be controlled and abused and never allowed out.
Same with xenophobic national. Like,
Sure.
what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think?
Oh! 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 There's no way. There's no way. What's wrong with being a Nazi? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a Nazi? What's wrong with that? What's so bad about being racist and pro-segregation? Like, what's so wrong with that? What's so bad about that? What's the problem? Bro. Why is she up there talking? Isn't she? That's true! Shut the fuck up, bitch, and get back to the kitchen! If that's where you think you belong, get back over there and shut the fuck up and stop speaking to the superior men. I don't actually believe that. Except specific. Hi, Smile! I don't actually hate women. That was I'm sorry. I don't actually, you know what? No, I do. I'm a misogynist. This chick is the manifestation of the word bimbo, bro. No, she's worse than that. She's worse than that. She's worse. I just don't understand why I can't say us white people are better than everyone else. Hi, Paul. I know this is just a funny time to pop in. This. Oh my god. I thought the other guy was bad. This bitch is literally just saying, "What's wrong with being evil? What's wrong with being evil? What's wrong? What's wrong with wanting to build a giant death laser to destroy the planet? What's wrong with that? Hope your day and stream goes well. Thank you." What's wrong with wanting to build a giant death laser to destroy the planet? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to beat the shit out of black people because they're black? What's wrong with that? What's the problem? Bitch is just saying, what's wrong with being evil?
I think that's better for Americans in general.
To
Like
be xenophobic
yes.
nationalism is.
Wait, how many flags just went up? Okay, one went up that time. Bro.
Nationalism, don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
So many of them are just like, no, I'm done. Full-on white supremacist this bitch is, by the way. Full-on white supremacist. That woman is a Nazi. He is talking to a Nazi. And he should call her out for it.
To choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is the dominant culture?
No. No.
European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
No.
It's rooted in European identity.
No.
So your argument is that
has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear.
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
Your argument.
That's because that's what makes America great. The diverse cultures. That's the whole reason why. We're literally supposed to be the melting pot.
Is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European.
Exactly. Same kind of woman who would want to deport an indigenous person. Lobotomize this bitch.
Identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that?
Right through the eye.
What is it then if that's not the identity of America?
The identity of America is freedom. Freedom to choose for yourself. Freedom of religion. Freedom from religion. Freedom of expression. Freedom of speech. That is the core of America. That's why America was founded. People left Europe because they were discriminated against and because they were forced to follow this specific religion. That's why any of this happened. Open the school. Child left behind. Fuck.
Identity of
For the
America.
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well,
no, I don't.
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Maybe since like the 1960s.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Just like, oh my God.
Then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're.
No, it doesn't. A melting pot does not mean assimilation. Hey guys, when you make a pot of soup, you start with like water, right? Yeah? When you put more things in with that water, it all just becomes water, right? Like when you add chicken stock to the water, it just becomes more water, right? And like salt and pepper and like vegetables and chicken and dill and all that just all becomes water, right? Yeah? Right? Right? That's what happens. That's what happens, right? 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 That's... She's so stupid!
Assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and now
mean
instead we're saying there's something wrong with xenophobia.
It means assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that what melting means? No! No! That's not what melting means! Holy fuck! You're allowed to vote! You're allowed to own money!
Sure. No. I mean, look, I gotta be honest with you, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will...
He's being too nice to her. He should say, I'm gonna be honest with you. You're a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're extremely stupid. Maybe you should go back to the kitchen.
Never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's
Trump isn't enough of a Nazi for me.
ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social
So you
issues.
don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in this. Okay.
Her brain is just soup. We're talking about melting? That's what your brain is. Oh my god. Holy shit. You know what? I'm starting to agree with her. And the other guy. Women, I'm not sure if women do deserve rights anymore. That's a lie. There are men just as stupid as her. She's just bad. She's not representative of all women. Don't become misogynistic because of the stupid woman. Don't become misogynistic because of the stupid women. There are still great women out there. Your girlfriend is awesome. She's great. Bro, holy shit. I thought it was bad at the beginning.
The next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security and health care.
I can't wait until one of those fucking freaks comes up. I can't wait until one of those freaks comes up and they're like, I agree, they will, and that's a good thing. I hate people being able to live. I hate that.
Nice.
Okay, thank God it's a new guy.
So, what if
the GOP is the Republican Party?
Social Security should go away? That's my question to you.
Guess I'm just clairvoyant.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
For right now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
let me just explain this.
Well, you're going to go back to lecture.
The what? Albatross around our generation's neck. The what? The statement is at the top, you can kind of see it, but the statement is that the GOP will destroy Social Security and healthcare. And his argument against it was, what if we should get rid of Social Security, though?
No,
about Social Security.
Well,
we don't
that's
have,
what we're talking about. Social Security.
Yeah, Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are more than $30 trillion in debt.
Well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit every year.
That's correct.
We have
because
30
it's
years
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement. By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge spending problem, and they go, oh, look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60.
Oh, did I miss a fact check? Sorry. In 1940, the ratio of covered workers to covered retirees was 159 to 1. Since 2010, the ratio has been below 3 to 1.
Above the cap.
You don't think it's because the government does a terrible job managing their money? They have a huge spending problem, and they go, oh, look at all this money we have for Social Security that's earmarked for 60 years from now that we're just going to spend on something right now.
40 years ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying? That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the $40 trillion debt problem. It's you have tax
It's
cuts.
the spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap, There's a cap right now at $176,000.
Fact check. Employers and employees each pay 6.2% a year on up to self-employment workers pay. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
So, for instance, if you make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
A year,
but
yeah.
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security? $6,200.
And so why should wealthy people hang on? Why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on 400.
Yeah.
$100,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all? Because they make more money? Again, you fundamentally...
Yep. Yeah. Correct. That's how taxes work! You pay money based off of how much money you make!
You fundamentally have this idea that because somebody... Okay, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should they?
The highest tax rate
hang on.
and the greatest expansion of our economy.
Hang on,
in this
does a
country?
billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not.
Insurance.
So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you why. Because
they make more.
it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it
I don't
was?
know the exact number, but
if you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed.
You should go back to
above
that.
470. So if we had in today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
and it's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us.
I don't even know what to say about this anymore. This guy's he has no fucking clue what he's talking about. He is genuinely just so uneducated. Fact check? What do you mean fact check? Oh. In 1955, individuals making more than $200,000 or $2.4 million today, or married couples with an income of more than $400,000 were taxed at 91% at the highest tax bracket. Good. I agree.
You can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we.
What country? What are you talking about?
Ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for them?
You're talking like the 401k.
Sure. Well, not just the 401k, but for IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions where you'd know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster. Because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if they could.
If the
because
government,
things are.
No, this guy has no sources or name of a country. He's just saying whatever the fuck he wants to pull out of his ass.
We're changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan for it right now.
We've had a 40-year experiment with that, the government affecting the cultural mindset, and it failed.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say?
Lego penis. Lego penis. Lego penis. Anyway.
Social Security.
Do you know what grandparents say? They go,
I'm a child.
well, I'm just waiting for my Social Security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me. You're assuming that young people.
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out. Well, no. So we should phase out. How would you listen to this idea? You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits. And then people like me, who have 40 years until we retire,
dude,
I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get screwed either way.
No,
you
you're
really
not.
think I'm going to get Social Security?
Yes! I do think you're going to get Social Security, just like I am. You're a bunch of fucking moron.
I guarantee you, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's
if
awesome.
You
I'll get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much rather, and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
And what happens
Don't rely
if they
on
don't?
them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
No, I got news for you. It's not your fault, but there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleep.
I think that everyone should be homeless.
No one in this room was alive before Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
and it
income
has
tax.
been the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are successful don't just start to die out and
It's
end up
not
in the
dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was there in the early years because of the 42-to-1 beneficial.
It wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42-to-1
Dude,
is
that was
a
just
massive
because
excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
in 1970 it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you remove the cap, your grandkids
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back into.
They're just putting it into.
Yes.
Some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you think a
crypto
401k or an IRA relies upon? It relies on the stock market and things like that.
Yeah, a 401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retaring in 2008 when the stock market tanked, and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole other problem. I would argue that's largely driven by the government being once again terrible with policy and creating bad economic hazards.
Social Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
These people are so stupid. If you can't just be better and lucky, then I guess just die. I know I can do better. I like feeling better.
Hey, Micah. Sam, nice to meet you.
There's
it genuinely all stems from a fundamental lack of empathy. All of their morals, all of their ethics, all of these people's views come from a book. They all come from the Bible. Or what they believe is in the Bible. Every single one of their morals, every ethic, they don't have empathy. Like, they do not have empathy. Fundamentally, for anybody who they view as not someone that they could be. They don't have it. They do not possess the capability to feel for other people. They are evil people.
An idea that you
that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once
no.
Well, you pay into it.
It doesn't swoop in.
Exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65. And it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one.
It does!
You should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
well, how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefits.
told you right now.
I know. I'm not going to rehash.
Yes, you are. You are going to receive Social Security benefits. So am I. You are fucking stupid.
Out that debate.
Well,
the main
look at
issue.
the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to rate it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people?
Yes.
No, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich people benefited more from it than low-income people? And I would
And
say,
what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage numbers, and we know that's not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the...
No, they're not! If they were investing in smaller businesses, they wouldn't have, fuck you, $500 billion. They're hoarding it like dragons, you fucking moron! What money has Elon Musk ever invested into a small fucking business?
People that are giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
Genuinely, the people that they got for this episode are some of the objectively stupidest people on the planet. I wish I was joking.
What's up? Hey. Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay. But Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that
Medicare. I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the Democrats.
It's also the biggest bucket of money.
It is the biggest bucket, but the Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we've become.
Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
Over like a
right. So 70% of our
budget.
70% of our federal spending is mandatory. And that, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of we're paying for that.
Clearly none of them have a consensus, even conscious. I was told I was going to my own research. I said to let people about it, pretty much. According to the Center on Budget and Policy and Priorities, 61% of spending is mandatory and 13 is interest payments for a total of 74%.
So the Democrats run on this, essentially they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot.
Why not? We're not saying a welfare state. We're just saying people not fucking dying. Just the bare minimum that people will be able to live.
A lot of people. But it's like we're closer to a welfare state.
People, and I'm going to say this unambiguously, and this is a fact. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. People deserve the right to not die. They deserve access to basic health care and food and water. It's not technically a basic natural right because it does require other things involved. But at our point as a society, where we have reached, where we are so far beyond our base human instincts and the basics of scrounging and scavenging and hunting and gathering. We are now at a point where we could very easily make sure that everyone is handled. But we don't. There's no reason other than some people want to be over others.
Than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the US is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really...
According to the Treasury Department, government spending is equal to 23% of the U.S. gross domestic product in 2024. In World War II, it peaked at 40. The most recent peak was 31 of GDP in 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic.
So are you worried about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right?
That's
the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue.
And that's exactly what happened.
Kansas.
No, that's exactly what happened to TCJ.
It destroyed Kansas by 2016.
Let's look
Kansas enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal potion would generate an explosion of economic growth. Overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states. Wow. Shocker.
Look at the
Republican
numbers.
legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education
Reality
system.
is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The
In
numbers.
fact,
The numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy
if
around
you
because
want
it was
to tax
a
the
disaster.
rich, you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes under Republican. It was the same
Revenue
as
went
Reagan.
down.
It
Look
was
at
the same as
Kansas.
Trump.
Look at Kansas.
At the
Bro brought up Reagan as a good example of economic policy. Bro brought up Reagan as a good example of economic policy. Bro brought up Reagan!
Yes, look at the
Look
U.S.
at
We
Kansas.
have the numbers
It
for
was
this.
the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income revenue,
Kansas.
is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes equate to Trump's worst? Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year.
Source, bro? I highly doubt that.
Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, like it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're not. You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's
Yes, you are.
Economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policy.
Republican leader is a rich person. You think he's applying more taxes for himself and his friends. He's stupid. They're dumb. They're dumb.
Benefit the 1%.
No,
Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor.
Listen,
and that's exactly what happens when they
COVID
stimulate.
inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased.
You're a fucking idiot.
The money supply by $6 trillion,
No, I
man.
understand they did that. I understand they did that, and they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to. You're making an argument for higher taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier?
Yes.
Is that what you think?
Does it make the country
Do taxes make us wealthy? Is
Yes.
the government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy?
Yes.
Do you think that the only
If
way
you
you
tax
get,
and
the only
if
way
you
you
tax
create wealth
and
is by
spend,
producing.
If you tax and
Blatantly
spend,
false.
government stimulus can increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is
Yes.
GDP wealth
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the
Not
housing
necessarily.
costs
No,
more,
no,
if
no.
if CPI goes up because there's more
No,
people.
I understand.
Well, for the most-
This is
inflation is
basic
under
economics.
control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
Right, but I'm just saying that what
Inflation is back
Look, the
down
welfare
because
state-
we had a problem
the welfare
with
state
logistics.
makes us all poor.
It's Lego Thor. Look at him. Look at him being all Thory. Anyway. Goodbye, Lego Thor's head.
Yes, it does. And you can see
it doesn't.
across history.
If you compare,
people want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why, as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity. And you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no free market.
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's not.
Everyone in that room wants you dead. Almost every, I want this person to understand that almost every other person in that room, especially that woman behind him, wants him dead. She wants that man dead. Period.
But now there used to be. No. That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world.
Another bag done.
Because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most.
Oh yeah, Rachel, you missed it earlier. That white bitch, that white blonde bitch that you saw for a second. That she unironically said, "Well, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism?" She also thinks that people should be. She was right there. She also thinks that people should be that women should all be submissive to their husbands. And that she wants to go back to the 50s.
America had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal tax rate was 90%.
What happened in the 70s?
And
when Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had OPEC. We had your oil shock that drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink. We had something called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed.
Post-World War II industrial revolution. We were producing more than every other country. It's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
When
90%.
When Reagan came in and brought it down, the top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
This guy's so close to being a socialist. He's just fucking stupid. Like, this guy is just a fucking idiot. He's so close.
About the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last claim.
Kansas.
When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making 100,000 and over. Now we don't even know, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich people are smart. So.
And then we should remove the loopholes. There's a ton of loopholes. Blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're so close. He's so close. He's so close. He realizes that the 1% are bad and evil. He's so close. He's so close.
Our top marginal rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today. 50% effective tax rate.
Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
well,
do not
I don't know what you mean by wealth. I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services. That's what wealth is. That's what creates wealth. Money, people think
make more product, 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 consume, 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 consume.
Money is wealth. Money buys wealth.
More shareholder revenue
creates less wealth inequality, and then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy, and then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens
today.
when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government,
capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. Capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax rates.
It is more socialist than ever before.
No,
we have
it's
more
not.
social welfare spending.
No.
GDP, I'll say it again, 38% of government spending, of GDP is government spending.
2024%. The U.S. government spending was estimated to be 38%. However, welfare only accounts for 7%.
We have more social welfare programs, and look at what happens. But how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We during in 2021.
What do you mean, what programs?
We expended. Hold on. In 2021.
What do you mean, what program? How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me.
What do you mean? You're saying just stupid bullshit. You're not saying anything that's true. Oh.
Like,
let me just finish this.
All right, go
in
ahead.
2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment, $300 per social welfare.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%. By 45%, but because
child poverty in 2021 fell to 5.2%, lowest rates on record, according to the Census Bureau measures. Child poverty rate was cut almost in half from the previous year's rate of 9.7.
Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me if I was wrong.
All right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
Anyway, we'll talk after.
My next claim is Trump's policies make the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Yeah. Literally, objectively. Shh, bro!
It's nice to meet you.
Bro said, it's my turn to be a Nazi! It's my turn! It's my turn!
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask what policies in specific are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries in the way that he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all of the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer. Because, you know, when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights. His anti-union policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there was a lot to unpack there, but
there's a lot of policies.
We'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There are a couple things in that specific policy that actually do benefit the middle class and the lower class more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS,
also, I like how there's a few things
that came out. The middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires saved more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't really care about an extra grand.
Americans saw their average federal tax liability drop by 13%. Americans making more than $1 million saw 6%.
In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000. No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say, in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time, what starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people, essentially, to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago, and a large part of that was obviously COVID, but a large part of it is also money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, When a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money. Their money is just is doing all the work.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, you know, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is under Trump, right, the stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much on taxes.
Inflation was down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well, that's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years, wage growth grew, not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another point that I want to talk on with you real quick is you talked about slashing government agencies, for instance, the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sure you've heard about that a lot in the news.
That's not a government agency. That's just some
committee. It actually an executive order was signed to make DOGE an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, It is an official government agency. So obviously we're talking about money. We want people to be able to afford a house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right? I mean, I can now, but continue that. And at the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year after year.
What does DOGE do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what DOGE is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash a lot of the federal spending, right? So what happens when the feds...
What spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. One second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there. Are you talking about cutting defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
Well, no. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that.
We owed them that money.
We also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching. First of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen. Defense spending is not going to be touched.
It's completely false. Drug. Oh, fact check. Did I miss a fact check? When? Oh. DOGE is not a full government agency. President Trump reorganized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form DOGE, which has team members working with agency heads. Okay. They're not fact-checking anything important. They're just fact-checking random bullshit, by the way.
Right. So what happens when the feds...
What spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. One second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there. Are you talking about cutting defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
Well, no. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that, but we also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching... First of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen. Defense spending is not going to be touched by DOGE. And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and social.
They will never cut defense spending.
Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now they're not going to touch the military. Are they going to cut Social Security?
You're asking me like I'm part of DOGE.
No. Well, you're telling me that DOGE is going to help everybody here, and I'm telling you, if they cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents, because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to be...
That doesn't get us any money back! Fact check again? God, come on. Pentagon is looking for $50 billion in budget cuts, or roughly 8% of its budget. The Defense Department is also cutting 5 to 8% of its workforce. Yeah, whatever.
So tell me, pay for their parents? Everybody in here is just going to help everybody here. And I'm telling you, if they cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents, because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to
So he's gonna-
Yes,
so
so
wait.
Donald Trump has signed an
Boss,
executive order.
Boss, you've been voted out by the majority. Please
Thank you,
return
sir.
to your seat.
So pause, wait. Let my stupid monkey brain think, please, my brain's so slow.
Okay, so why did we see a higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why did we see a higher increase in the...
So under TCJA, you know, it was passed 2017, it was
Right.
effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of the federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42% of the
Because
federal
they got
income tax.
more money.
Right, okay, so they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying, so, and why did they get richer? So this goes on inflation that,
I mean, that's my point, is the rich are getting richer.
right, but you mentioned, and so why would you say that they're getting richer? But you mentioned inflation? Or,
No, they're not, well, I mean, I think that inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID, yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus.
He has no idea what he's talking
You can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this: inflation went up in Western European countries the same
That
rates that
had
it
this-
did.
Mother. Fact check about Obama. During the Obama administration, the share of federal income taxes paid by the 1% ranged from 35 to 39.5. During the Trump administration, the share paid from 39 to nearly 46. So why is Trump not doing that now?
No, they're not. It wasn't a function. She got rich.
COVID, and we can see that the creative easing and pumping is
Western.
Two of them.
Well, I can
Federal Reserve ebbs and flows between monetarism and Keynesianism economics.
tell you this: inflation went up in Western European countries the same
that
rates that
had
it
the
did.
stimulus. That had stimulus.
No, they didn't have the same in Western European.
Monetarists. 1 second. Bam. 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 Monetarists believe in controlling the supply of money that flows into the economy, while allowing the rest of the market to fix itself. Keynesian economists believe that a troubled economy continues in a downward spiral unless intervention drives consumers to buy more goods and services.
In countries, the same
that
rates that
had
it
the
did.
stimulus. That had stimulus.
No, they didn't have the same level of stimulus
They
that
did.
we did. No, they did.
They absolutely did.
They did.
You can look at Japan. Yeah, I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, "Oh, inflation was global." Not true. China never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID, and they were actually they were under deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that
I'm
had
talking
inflation
in
increase,
Western Europe. You
Like
could
what
see
country?
inflate. Well, you could England, Germany,
'Cause they
Italy.
stimulated.
They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at the cost of goods and
why-
logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because we're the world reserve currency, is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experience it, domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation
Yes, it
caused
affects
higher inflation in Europe?
Absolutely, because
That's
trade,
not what economists
it is international.
say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar denominated.
That's not what economists say. Oh, well, you can look at the facts.
All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve
Idiot.
currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
It did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We
of
export our
yeah,
inflation.
and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar.
Sure.
Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro is not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international
okay.
trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID. The euro used to be above the dollar.
I'm unclear what your point.
My point is that the inflation is caused by left-wing policies, and
so inflation was caused by, you're saying,
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars into the economy.
First of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve is not part of Biden. Didn't have control of the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely not. But the entire Federal Reserve system is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So
you're saying that the
more you
quantitative easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
Why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it.
Why didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute.
Wait.
We absolutely did.
What numbers were
me when I just say
during
things?
The Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed target.
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit as
no,
high as 9%.
No, it wasn't even remotely
right,
close.
But when we look at the effects of compounding,
did I just miss the fact check? I missed a couple. Christ.
So you're saying our inflation
yes,
caused
it affects
higher inflation
absolutely,
in Europe?
because
that's not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar denominated. International trade. All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
it did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe. The strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. in U.S. dollars.
China's annual inflation rate has been below 3% since May 2020. Japan suffered from economic stagnation from the 1990s through 2021, resulting in deflation. It is often called Japan's lost decades.
Because we experienced domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation
yes,
caused
it affects
higher inflation
absolutely
in Europe?
because
I will be right back. I actually need one more Ziploc. I need one more. So I'll be right back. Hello, we're back for hell.
That's not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar-denominated international trade. All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
that's nice, I guess.
It did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export.
1 second. 6869. 6869. 9. Bag number 2. This is the last bag. Let's go.
Export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar.
Sure.
Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro is not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international
okay.
trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID, the euro used to be above the dollar. So let's trillions of dollars into the economy.
First of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve is not.
Fact check coming up.
Part of Biden didn't have control of the Federal Reserve.
Absolutely not, but the entire Federal Reserve system is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So
you're saying that the
more you
quantitative easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
Why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it through QE.
Why didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute.
Wait.
We absolutely did.
What numbers were?
2008 to 2014, the Federal Reserve did quantitative easing, buying up treasuries to increase the money supply.
Inflation that we get during the Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed target.
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit as
no,
high as 9%.
No, it wasn't even remotely
right,
close.
But when we look at the effects of compounding inflation.
QE 1, 2, and 3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact,
we did.
Glenn Beck was talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar.
There was
we
a
would
second
have had
one.
rampant inflation. In fact,
prevention.
For most of the Obama administration, consumer price inflation hovered around or under 2%. In summer 2011, annual consumer price... I know there's another! Annual consumer price inflation briefly rose to 3.8. Why are they fact-checking these random statistics instead of fact-checking stuff like the government doesn't pay taxes to the government? Why is this the shit they're fact-checking? Just random statistics.
All happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact, Glenn Beck was talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar Germany, and none of that happened.
But here's the factors you're missing.
None of it.
Here's the factors you're missing.
So if you look at what's happening at Western Europe, well, no, listen.
We didn't close down the economy. The Biden administration closed down the economy.
I understand.
No, that was not the entire world.
Excuse me, the Biden administration?
Yes, they forced mask mandates. They supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat states.
Do you not remember who was president in the first year of COVID?
What? Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not.
Right.
So I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021,
this guy is so stupid. I'm not sure he knows where he is right now. 1 second. These are supposed to go in the last bag I did. Bag number 3. Poopies. Poopy poopies. Poopy doopies.
The economy was opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Well, okay,
the Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay. Okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want, but
it's not hypothetically. We can look at we can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing down.
The economy closed down in 2020, March of 2020.
Well, okay, sure.
Donald Trump was president.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
What a fucking idiot. Which Nazi's taking it this time?
Good. How you doing? Sam.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, new guy.
When you're talking about like inflation, in 2021, Janet Yellen said it would be transitory, and then again in 2022 she said it would be transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that
no.
Shot inflation up from Like there was already pretty bad inflation in early 2022
No.
and late 2021.
Just you're wrong.
They shot it up from the low kind of margins in like 3 or 4% all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where you know.
Yeah, in between 2.5.
Yeah,
and 6,
where they're looking to get it, and we have really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with Trump's policies?
Inflation was at 3% as of January 2025. Unemployment hit 3.4 in February 2023, the lowest level in 54 years. It was consistently near or below 4% for the rest of the Biden administration.
He's not making the richer richer and the rest of us poor.
Okay, so what I was just explaining with
okay, so like what I was just explaining,
oil prices skyrocketed in 2022 because in 2021 when Biden got into office, he shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
On top of the fact,
President Biden revoked a Keystone XL permit, as he should have, because Keystone was horrible. When he took office, which also shut the project down, he also implemented a 60-day suspension of leasing and drilling permits for oil and gas on federal property.
Yeah.
That Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I, am terribly excited about.
What did he just do on the East Coast?
Apparently, what Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up. And he filled it back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the price.
According to U.S. Energy, the U.S. is producing more crude oil than any country ever has. In 2023, the U.S. produced approximately 3 million more barrels of oil per day than Saudi Arabia.
Setting power by oil countries across the world. Really, I mean, oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I was getting to that. So oil price.
Sorry, I want to make sure I don't mess something up.
In 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine, Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions,
Biden or
Putin knew that would occur in Russia if the sanctions were taken off of that pipeline, and Biden took all the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office, and then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine, sanctions happen all over the world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do great things with oil and let us drill, and what that actually does for the economy.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He stopped it.
Yeah, really dumb idea. We're about to.
Really dumb idea.
So you want to go?
Really dumb idea. Fuck the water. Fuck the ocean. Fuck the planet. I want more oil.
Beyond even the record-breaking thing.
Yes, I want to become energy independent, and that lowers inflation.
We're going to sell this oil. We don't use the oil. We sell we sell
getting money in the pockets.
We're not going to use the oil. We're not going to, because we don't actually have refineries set up for our own oil. For the most part, it can handle other countries' oil, like Canada.
Sell it. We sell it. Well, how is that oil getting to the pocket of American citizens?
Because when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of all
products.
No,
I understand that the inflationary prices effect of energy, but the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yeah, we're going to
sell it.
Yeah, so we're going to.
You want to produce even more oil than we are now.
Yes.
And you don't think climate change is going to impact? You don't believe in climate change.
that's a whole other discussion, but no.
Well, I mean, it's sort of the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, well, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but lowering or raising the man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society.
Yes, it is! It's a horrible detriment to society. You're gonna kill us all.
You don't think so?
No, human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls, and we can...
Oh, it's okay. Let's just keep destroying the planet. We can build walls to... This guy genuinely believes in climate change, but has decided that it does not affect us. Because humans can just... I don't know, build walls, I guess. We can build walls.
What kind of seawall are you going to build for Miami? What are you going to do about when we get?
I'm talking about the economy right now, which if we get back on topic.
All right, guys. Sorry, time's up. I let you
go.
Yeah,
no problem.
Longer.
Sam will now choose a conservative to debate for 10 minutes on a claim of their choosing.
I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security. So.
My claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
Yeah, I disagree because larger...
My claim is that abortion is immoral. Of course he goes for abortion. Your claim is that you're fucking stupid.
Because I think the primary rights that we have under a society should belong to the person, and I don't believe a fetus is a person.
Okay. Okay, so that's very interesting. You don't believe the fetus is a person. When do you think that it gains personhood, in your opinion? Would you agree it's a human life, at least?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, yes, I think largely, I think that claim is largely, like, it's not relevant to the way that I think about it. I think about it in terms of personhood. I mean, I think, like, life exists all around us. And
not human. Well, I mean, human life, but not like there's not human life in a tree. Correct.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So it's human life.
It's human life.
But it's not a person.
It's not a person.
So at which point does it gain personhood?
And
gain the value of being a human?
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds prior, it's not born yet, not person. 5 seconds after exits the birth canal. Person. Is there a magical quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate from the host that has been that it's been growing inside.
Okay, so would you assign that to other human beings that are attached to things? Like, for instance, if I'm attached to a machine, am I a machine now? Am I part of that machine, or am I still a human life? I just need support in order to stay alive.
If you've never been born, and you're growing in...
I like how they make this argument and then say universal health care is bad.
Let's say a test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
Okay, so then, but it's not really the disconnected part, it's the being born part.
Well, being born means being disconnected from your mother.
Okay, so you're specifically aligning having the quality of being birthed as what makes someone a person.
Person within the context of our society and civilization.
So just in our society, you wouldn't say that objectively that's a person. You would say that we just decide that it's a person because it's birth.
Yeah, rights we give to persons. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's an interesting kind of definition of what human life and specifically personhood is.
Well, no, I don't. I'm conceding that it's human life. But that you're not a person until you're born, and you do not have the same rights that we would give. Look, we have rights about cruelty to animals, for instance, right? But they're not persons within the context of our society.
I'm not saying that they are, but specifically, it seems like you're just kind of saying, oh, it's a person when it's born, but you're not actually providing any consistent reason for that. You're just saying it just is a person.
I'm saying that on some level, there's a certain amount of arbitrariness as to when we give rights. Like one could say, do you say it's at conception?
Sure, yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle, because
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree with IVF in that case. It really depends on the particulars in that case, but I believe.
Well, what do you mean the particulars in that?
Well, so for instance, at conception, you would still be a human life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the fertilized egg attaches
So
to the
is it
uterine wall.
is it human life for you, or what?
It's human life, yeah.
Okay, so human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that.
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
No. So they're human lives, correct?
The IVF is when the egg and the sperm in that and then they're supplanted.
Yes.
Is it when is it human life?
As soon as it has unique human DNA, that's a human life.
Okay. So
it's a new human, correct?
Now in the IVF process.
So the second that it comes out your balls, human life. I'm a mass murderer.
There's stuff that gets thrown out. Like,
yes.
You would consider that murder.
I'm not even defending IVF or going against it. I'm specifically saying abortion. That was my claim, right? I'm not going to argue IVF.
But isn't that abortion under your principle?
I would say if you get rid of human life after conception, I don't think that's moral. I'm not going to argue the IVF particulars because that's not what my claim was, right?
When we're talking about laws, right? Because you want to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. When we're talking about laws, it's not just morality when we form public policy around and create laws.
Not just, but it should be moral, correct?
Well, I mean, I think like your definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer, in a perfect world, not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right? Sure. In a perfect world. However,
it's all done.
In practice, that when you start to restrict things, like say, only in the threat of life to the woman, let's say, that's the only way we're going to allow abortions, right? When you start to have these exceptions, they're in practice, they don't work. Because when your life is in jeopardy and you come into a hospital, the doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say, like, your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And what does life in jeopardy, hold on, what does life in jeopardy mean? Does it mean a 30% chance of death? Does it mean a 50%, a 70%, or 20%? That's why we now have women who are dying, because doctors are afraid to perform abortions on them. That's true.
Are you referencing, just because some doctors misread plain text doesn't mean that that it's all of a sudden that life is less valuable or more valuable?
No, it means that you are subjecting the woman to more risk, and it's impossible. These exceptions are all, they're canards.
No,
when you oppose a law, it is not just about morality, it's in practice.
Sure,
in practice,
I understand that.
You cannot do this without sacrificing women's lives because
what about
of your
the unborn
morality.
Children, though? Because let's go back to your
unborn children.
What about the non-sentient clump of cells? What about them? What about them, huh?
So let's say you have a 9-month...
And the mother has more rights, in my mind, than the unborn child.
Yeah, that's a claim that you can make. But so a 9-month birthed child, or just 9 months and just now born, it's a newborn baby. A 5-month could be emergency C-section and could be birthed, right? Let's say they don't do that. What's the difference between the arbitrary choice of taking that child out of the womb at 6 months or 5 months?
Why don't we take all children out of 5 months?
No, what I'm saying is that the personhood just because of birth runs into a problem where it starts to say,
all right, guys,
well,
I hate to do it, but I gotta do it. I'm sorry, that's time.
Okay. Hey.
I'm glad I was here. It was interesting. It was, I know my questions were...
Bro, don't lie. You're not glad you were there. You genuinely want to kill yourself right now. I know I would. Don't lie.
More sort of policy oriented, I think, than maybe folks anticipated here. And I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't many people here who could address the policies. They were very, very sure of themselves as to why they voted for Trump, but a lot of it was sort of not material in any way.
So there was stuff that conservatives were...
Yeah, because Trump supporters don't vote based off of their brains because they don't have them. They both vote purely based on vibes.
Saying today that I fundamentally disagreed with my entire heart, but at the end of the day, we're still part of the conservative movement. So I think there are people that I disagreed with, there are people that I completely did agree with, but the cool thing about this new conservative movement and the people here today is it's people from all different walks of life sharing their perspective.
I don't think Sam had a...
The cool thing about this new conservative movement is it's all different kind of Nazis being Nazis together and sharing their different Nazi ideas. By the way, good timing, but small distraction. I'm done! We've finished the whole thing. It's back in the box. Wonderful.
And like, at least when I was speaking to him, I don't think Sam really had great responses because...
You're a Nazi!
The reality is not on his side. I don't think socialism works. I think social programs can be...
He never once argued for socialism, by the way.
Good up to a certain extent, but we are very socialist as a nation, and yeah.
We're what?
I mean, I'll just say it again. Socialism does not work. Sorry. Wish it did.
I think debate is healthy, and I think it helps viewers sort of clarify why certain people support certain things.
We managed to turn an hour 30-minute video into a 3-hour stream.
And it gives an opportunity, I think, to both have fun and drama and maybe learn some stuff. So that's always a good thing.
See what the comments say. Nightmare blunt rotation. We used to disagree on points of opinion. Now we disagree on points of fact. For real. Start saving at 19 for retirement. With what money? Government agencies don't pay taxes. They are funded by the government. I'll give Jubilee credit. Regardless of political affiliation, etc., they always manage to find the most annoying people to sit in the background nodding and snapping their fingers. It's ironic watching poor and middle-class people fight and defend the top 1%. It really is. It's genuinely sad to see. Some of these, like some of these people were full-on immigrants fighting for their own deportation, basically. It's sad. Anyway. That was the longer stream that we've done in a while. We just passed about 3 hours. I finished doing what I was doing. I have a lot of messages. Most of them are from Frankie, because I sent him a lot of texts. I've been hydrating the whole time. I gotta go pee. Stop it. I just got up and literally walked around. What do you mean stretch? Fucking weirdo. I think that's enough for the stream. That's enough for the stream for now. So we're gonna end there. That was enough stupidity for one night. And, yeah, I'm gonna probably go, like, work on SMP stuff, clean this up, maybe grab dinner. Thanks for tuning in, Smile. I'm gonna see if we can find anyone to raid, though. If any of my friends. Any of my friends alive. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Honestly, this was probably the most diverse group of people I've had show up to my stream in a while. Turns out I need to stream earlier. Shocker. Salty's live. We're gonna raid Salty. We're gonna raid Salty again, because she's my only friend who's live. It's just her. Go say hi to Salty. Salty is super cool. She's an awesome artist. She makes cool pixel art, and she's so cool, and she's a good friend, and she does cool stuff. She's such a good artist lady. Go say hello to her. She's super cool. Bye. Thank you all for tuning in.